This is the process we went through in creating our lyric video for Through Space and Time. It was a convoluted ordeal, more so than you might expect, and took around 6 months in all. First of all, we downloaded a video from NASA's website, 30 minutes of 4K video from their Solar Dynamics Observatory, a 2-ton satellite in geosynchronous orbit launched in 2010. NASA are kind enough to provide this footage to the public for free. The file was 22 gigabytes and downloaded in a few hours. The video came with a relaxing ambient soundtrack, reinforcing that, although the footage was enchanting, it wasn't fast-paced enough to pair well with a metal song. To that end, we would have to do some production work on it. We opened the file in VirtualDub 64-bit. This is a powerful freeware program, but it can be quite confusing to get used to. We exported the video file as individual frames, leaving the computer on overnight to complete the task. 30 minutes at 60 frames per second came out at 109,000 individual frames, each 24 megabytes in size. So, storing the footage in that format took it from 22 gigabytes to 2,500. The next step was to analyze the video and assess which shots would be usable. We watched it through, marking to the nearest second where shots began and ended, as well as their color casts, panning movements, and comparative levels of zoom and focus, or image quality. Some of the redder shots in particular weren't as sharp on the details of the solar surface. We also noted both the amount of solar activity in each shot and the scale of it. We then skipped to the starting timestamp of each shot and advanced frame by frame to find the precise frame boundaries between one shot and the next. This gave accurate start, end, and length references. While the first stage of the assessment was done using only the original video, this phase found the boundaries in the video and then confirmed them by checking the exported separate frames. Once we knew what raw shots we had to work with, we assigned them to the sections of the song. The primary concern here was matching color to mood, but zoom and activity came into it as well. I think ideally the choruses should have been more blue, but there simply weren't enough blue shots to choose from. The yellow shots we went with did at least have lots of busy, finely detailed activity, which paired nicely with the arpeggiating strings. We then located the files for each frame required in the chosen shots and divided them into separate folders. This took us from the whole movie at 2,500 gigabytes to just the 3 minutes we were working with at 275 gigabytes. There's a video production technique called the Ken Burns effect, which is used to add a sense of motion to still images. The camera zooms in close, showing only a small section of the image and then pans across it. This is how we added movement to the photographs of poppy fields in the lyric video for The Soldier. Although the NASA footage was video rather than still and already had some panning movement, applying the same technique here added much faster motion, essential to suit such a fast song. As you might have noticed, the pan and zoom effect in the video editing program used to make The Soldier zooms in at the start of each shot and pulls out again at the end, rather than staying zoomed in throughout, which looks cheap and rather ruins the effect. So this time around, we used a different program to provide the effect, downloading a plugin that would do it in VirtualDub. The only issue was that the plugin was 32-bit, and so would only run in the 32-bit version of the program, which comes with a limit on the amount of system resources it can use. We set the plugin zoom to HD resolution, being half the available width and height of each 4K original shot. We then chose the panning speed, direction, and start point for each shot, based on what we felt captured the most exciting view of the shot's events for the duration required in the song. We exported each programmed shot as separate frames as we went along, and grouped the frames into folders. One thing that made the maths quite a bit easier is that the song tempo is exactly 120 beats per minute, so dividing up 60 frames per second video to start and end precisely in time with the music was a simple affair. To animate the cropped frames together again into a video file, we needed a list of the address each frame was saved to. This covered 21 folders split across 3 different hard drives. Rather than manually write out the addresses of 11,000 files, we made a spreadsheet with formulae to do it for us. The spreadsheet identifies how many frames each shot has, advances through them until it reaches the last, and then moves on to the next shot. It lists the frame's 4-digit code and inserts that and the shot number into the file address. The finished list could then be dropped into a notepad document. The next step was to open ffmpeg, another free program that's powerful but not at all intuitive, and to learn how to use it enough to perform the required task. We set it for 60 frames per second, showed it where to find the list of frames, and set it going. After processing without compression caused crashes on playback, we set the compression ratio to 20 and ran the exporting again. This proved successful, so with trial and error we exported versions with sequentially lower compression ratios. In the end, we were able to use a compression ratio of 1, maintaining maximum file quality. This produced a 5 GB high-definition video file without sound. We then spent an evening looking through fonts, aiming for something that felt futuristic but was still legible. We ended up with a font reminiscent of Battlestar Galactica for the verses, and one of Star Trek for the choruses. We chose the 3 fonts used in the 3 AM lyric video at the same time. The final step was importing the video file and album audio track into Cyberlink PowerDirector 18 and adding the lyrics. This involved placing markers in time with the beat to get the timing. We chose text effects which again reflected the science fiction nature of the song, such as each line of verse lyrics dematerializing after being read. After rendering, we were left with a 60 frames per second HD video coming in at 1.29 GB in size. After checking it through, leaving it for a while and then returning to the finished product to evaluate it afresh, we uploaded it to YouTube.